The most common piece of advice given for poor leg circulation after 60 is the one thing that might be holding your recovery back: walk more. That is what almost everyone hears, and walking is good for you. So I want to be clear about that from the very start because you should keep doing it. But there is one specific thing that actually moves the blood out of your lower legs and drives it back up to your heart. And ordinary walking barely switches it on. I'm Dr. Natalie Brooks. Over the years, I have cared for a lot of people who did everything right. They walked every single day. They propped their legs up on a pillow at night. They wore the compression socks their doctor handed them. And they still sat down across from me with cold feet, ankles that ballooned by the evening, a burning ache in the calves, and that scary, unsteady feeling when they stood up too fast. They were doing the work. The problem was not budging, and they could not understand why. Here is what no one had ever sat down and explained to them. Poor circulation after 60 is not a small annoyance you simply live with. When blood stops moving well through the legs, small cuts and sores heal slowly. They turn into infections. And in the worst cases, people end up losing toes or a foot. It is also one of the earliest warning signs that the heart and the arteries themselves are under strain. By age 70, close to 1 in 5 adults has what doctors call peripheral artery disease, which is a narrowing of the arteries feeding the legs. And most of those people have no idea they have it yet. So this is worth understanding properly. And before you click away because you assume you already know all of this, walk more. Put your feet up, drink your water, give me 2 minutes. Because the reason your feet are still cold at night has very little to do with how many steps you got today. It comes down to a single muscle that most people never think about even once. And once you know how to switch it on, the fix is far simpler than you would ever guess. Let me tell you what that muscle is: your calf. Doctors call it the calf muscle pump, and a lot of us call it your second heart, which is not some cute figure of speech. Every time your calf muscle tightens, it squeezes down on the deep veins buried in your lower leg and physically pushes blood upward against gravity back toward your chest. Tiny one-way valves inside those veins snap shut behind each push so the blood cannot fall back down. That is the pump. That is your second heart working every time you take a step. The trouble is what happens to that pump after 60. The vein walls get weaker and stretchier. Those little valves start to leak, and the calf muscle itself shrinks and loses power, especially if you spend a good part of your day sitting, which most of us do. So the pump slows down, and when it slows, blood stalls at your ankles instead of climbing. The swelling gets worse. The feet get colder. The skin down there starts running short on oxygen. And the less you move, the weaker the pump gets, which makes you move even less. It becomes a slow downward spiral, and a lot of people are somewhere on it without realizing. Now, here is the good news, and it is genuinely good news. Fixing this does not depend on your step count. It depends on a handful of very specific movements that physically push the blood back up where it belongs. I am going to walk you through 5 of them in order, counting down from 5 to 1. Each one does something the one before it could not. And I am saving the single most powerful movement for the end, the one exercise that vascular rehab programs all over the world lean on more than any other to get blood flowing again after 60. If you only take one thing away from this whole video, it is going to be number 1. But you will understand it far better if we build up to it together. One quick thing before we start the countdown, because it matters to me that you hear it. Everything I'm about to show you is one piece of a much bigger picture. The small daily habits that quietly decide whether you are still walking strong at 80 or reaching for a cane at 70. So I took everything I tell my own patients about staying mobile and independent in these years, and I put it into one simple plan. It has already helped thousands of people live their best life after 60. If you want it, the link is right there on your screen. You do not need to write anything down, and I will never make you sit through me reading a web address out loud. Now, before the movements, let me tell you about someone. I am going to call her Lorraine, and she is really a blend of several patients I have cared for over the years. So no one's privacy is on the line. Lorraine was 71, sharp as a tack, still driving, still hosting her grandkids on Sundays, but her feet were cold every single night, even in the middle of summer, and her ankles turned to bread dough by dinner time. She had been faithfully walking a mile a day for years, and she was quietly heartbroken that it was not helping. Keep Lorraine in the back of your mind because what finally changed for her is the entire point of this video. Let's start the countdown at number 5, ankle pumps. Now, this one looks almost too simple to be worth your time, and that is exactly why people wave it off and skip it. It is often the very first movement patients are given after leg surgery before they are even allowed to stand up, precisely because it keeps the blood from pooling while they heal. The reason it works is straightforward. When you flex your foot up and then point it down, your calf contracts and relaxes, and that motion squeezes the veins and moves the blood that has been sitting stagnant around your ankles. A 2025 review in the Journal of Orthopedic Surgery and Research gathered up 16 separate randomized trials and found that simple ankle pumping improved blood flow back up the leg and brought down lower leg swelling in older adults with no standing and no walking required at all. The whole key is to do it slowly with control and to do it often. To do it right, sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor. Lift your toes up toward your shins while you keep your heels planted down. Then reverse it. Press your toes down into the floor and lift your heels up the way you would ease onto a gas pedal. Slow and deliberate. That is one repetition. Aim for 20 to 30 of them 2 or 3 times a day. You can do this while you watch television, while you read, while you sit at the kitchen table waiting for the kettle. It costs you nothing but a few minutes. Think about how much time you spend sitting in the car, at meals, in your chair in the evening. All of that is time your pump is switched off and blood is settling in your feet. Ankle pumps switch it back on without you even getting up. Walking runs on momentum. You fall forward and catch yourself over and over, and honestly, your calves barely get a full squeeze out of it. Ankle pumps make the muscle genuinely contract and push. That means warmer feet, less swelling, and less pressure on those fragile veins. It is also one of the safest possible ways to begin if pain or poor balance or plain fatigue keeps you from being on your feet very long. But ankle pumps only wake the system up. The next movement goes after the bigger muscles higher up your leg. Number 4, the seated leg lift. And if you are thinking that sitting down must make this an easy one, your legs are going to tell you a very different story about 10 seconds in. When you straighten your leg out in front of you and hold it there, you fire the big muscles across the front of your thigh and the muscles at the front of your hip. Those are the exact muscles you rely on to stand up out of a chair, to climb a flight of stairs, to catch yourself when you start to go down. And when they contract, they press on the large veins running up through your thigh and help drive blood out of the leg. Regular walking barely challenges those muscles enough to slow the loss that comes with age. This matters more than most people realize. And here's the piece that makes it click. Geriatric doctors track something called gait speed, which is simply how fast you walk. They call it the sixth vital sign, right up there with your pulse and your blood pressure. Because how fast you walk turns out to predict your fall risk, your independence, and even how long you are likely to live. When walking slows down, it is often one of the very first signals that the body is quietly losing ground. Strengthening the muscles that carry you is exactly how you defend that ground. So, here is how you do it. Sit up tall in a sturdy chair with your back pressed against the seat and both feet flat on the floor. Slowly lift one leg straight out in front of you, keeping the knee as straight as is comfortable for you. Hold it there for 2 seconds, then lower it back down slowly without letting the foot just flop to the floor. That is one repetition. Do 10 to 15 on one leg, then switch to the other side. The detail nearly everyone misses is the back. Keep it firmly against the chair so you cannot cheat by rocking and using momentum. That is what forces the right muscles to actually do the work. And that is where the circulation benefit comes from. As this starts to feel easy, add a little resistance. a light ankle weight, or a resistance band looped around your foot. Even 1 or 2 pounds makes a real difference. Muscle responds to gentle, steady load at any age, and older adults very often improve faster than they expect simply because they are starting from further back. This movement builds the strength that keeps you walking, and it moves blood through the upper leg in a way that ankle pumps alone can never reach. But even strong thighs will not protect you if your balance system is not firing the way it should. And that is exactly where we go next. Number 3, the supported calf raise. This is the movement that trains your circulation and your balance at the very same time. And balance is the thing that quietly decides whether a person keeps their independence or slowly loses it. The National Institute on Aging is very clear on this point. Keeping your lower body muscles strong is one of the best things you can do to hold onto your mobility as you get older. To keep rising out of chairs, off the couch, up the stairs without needing a hand, and your calves sit right at the center of that. Every time they contract, they squeeze those deep veins and force blood upward against gravity. Weak calves mean blood pools, swelling climbs, and your balance reactions get a little slower. So, an ordinary stumble is far more likely to turn into an actual fall. Let me pause for just 1 second here because I owe you a small favor. Ask, and this is a natural spot for it. If any of this has been useful to you so far, please subscribe, tap the like button, and leave me a comment telling me which of these 5 movements you are going to start with today. I read every single comment that comes in, and it honestly shapes what I make next for you. That is it. Now back to your calves. To do a supported calf raise, stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter and rest your hands on it lightly for balance. Feet about hip width apart. Rise up slowly onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as is comfortable. At the top, pause for 2 or 3 seconds and keep your eyes looking straight ahead rather than down at your feet. Then lower yourself slowly, taking a full 3 seconds to come back down. That slow tempo and that little pause at the top are where the real work happens. It makes your calf muscles and your balance system fire together, which is the precise thing your body has to do when you catch yourself mid stumble. Start with 10 of them. Build toward 20 or 25 as you get stronger. Over just a few weeks, this one movement improves your ankle stability, your circulation, and how fast you react all at once. And it does all of that without pounding on your knees or your hips. For a lot of the people I have cared for, this is the one that first made them feel genuinely steady on their feet again. But standing on 2 feet is the gentle version. The next movement takes one of them away. Number 2, the single leg stance hold. Now, before you wave this one off as just balance and nothing to do with your blood, let me give you the number that made me take it completely seriously. Back in 2022, researchers publishing in the British Journal of Sports Medicine followed more than 1,700 adults for several years. They found that the people who could not stand on one leg for just 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of dying over the years that followed, compared with the people who could hold it 84%. And here is the part that stops me every time. Among adults in their early 70s, fewer than half of them could pass that simple test. A 10-second balance check told those researchers more about the road ahead than almost anything else they measured. You can actually try this one right now carefully with a counter or a solid chair right next to you. Stand up tall, put one hand near something you can grab, lift 1 foot an inch or two off the floor, and see whether you can hold it steady for 10 seconds without grabbing on. That is the test, and it also happens to be the exercise. The reason it does so much for your blood flow comes down to time. The instant you stand on one leg, your calf, your ankle, your hip, and your core all have to contract and keep contracting to hold you upright. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump running the entire time, pushing blood up instead of letting it settle back down into your foot. Ordinary walking never asks for that. You are on 1 foot for a split second, and then you are off it again. Standing on one leg forces the pump to stay switched on, And this is the spot where circulation and fall prevention completely overlap. When balance fades, people move less. When movement drops, blood flow slows, swelling rises, the feet ache more, confidence drains away, and that is the very spiral we talked about at the start. To train it, stand next to a counter or a wall with one hand resting lightly on it for safety. Shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other foot just an inch off the floor. You do not need to lift it high at all. Stand tall, eyes forward, and do not curl your toes to grip the ground. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing normally the whole time. Then switch legs. That is one set. Start with 2 rounds on each side. As it gets easier, rest your hand on the counter more and more lightly until eventually you can hover it just above the surface without actually touching. The longer, steadier squeeze keeps blood moving and retrains your nerves to react faster when you trip. But balance on its own keeps you upright without fully restoring the flow. For that, you need the single strongest version of the calf pump there is, and that is number one. Number one, the standing calf pump hold. This is the movement I promised you all the way back at the start. And once you understand what it is doing inside your leg, you will see exactly why vascular rehab programs across the entire world use it almost the way they would use a prescription. It looks a lot like the calf raise from number 3, with one small difference that changes everything: the hold. You rise up onto the balls of your feet, and then you stay right there. Your calves work like pressure pumps, and holding at the top keeps that pump fully squeezed long enough to actually clear out the blood that has been stalling around your ankles and drive it up toward your heart. Ankle pumps wake the system up. The single leg hold trains your control. This movement moves the most blood of all, and it keeps it moving. And the evidence behind it is real, not hand waving. In a randomized trial published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery, people with genuinely poor leg circulation who did a simple program built around calf raise exercise were able to walk significantly farther before the pain set in. Their pain-free walking distance improved by dozens of meters and their total walking distance by close to 100 with no medication and no machine involved anywhere. That is the calf pump doing the job it was built to do. Here is how to do it safely. Stand behind a chair or at a counter, hands resting there for your balance. Feet about hip width apart. Rise up slowly onto the balls of your feet. Heels lifting as high as is comfortable. Now hold it 3 to 5 seconds at the very top. Breathing normally, eyes forward, then lower yourself back down slowly. About 3 seconds to come all the way down. That is one repetition. Start with 8 to 10 of them. Work up over time to 15 or 20. Always with control, never rushing. The hold is the entire point. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump fully engaged, drives the blood up, brings the swelling down, and strengthens the exact muscles your body reaches for when you catch yourself. And because there is no jumping and no pounding anywhere in it, it is gentle enough for most people with arthritis or shaky balance, as long as you keep one hand on that counter. So let me tell you what happened with Lorraine, because this is where all of it landed for her. I had her stop obsessing over her step count and instead do these 5 movements in order for about 12 minutes a day. Ankle pumps in her chair first thing in the morning, seated leg lifts, the supported calf raises at the kitchen counter while her coffee brewed, the balance holds and the standing calf pump holds at the very end. Now, I am going to be honest with you about her result because I always am. Her circulation did not turn into a 30-year-old's overnight, and I would never promise you that. But within a few weeks, her ankles were not ballooning up by dinner anymore. Her feet were warmer at night, and the thing she told me she cared about the most, she stopped feeling like she might tip over when she got up off the couch. She felt steady again. For a woman who had been quietly terrified of falling, that was everything. Before I send you off, I owe you one honest caution, because I would much rather you be safe than sorry. If you ever get sudden severe pain in one leg, or a leg turns pale and cold and numb out of nowhere, or you have a sore on your foot or ankle that simply will not heal, please do not sit at home doing exercises. That is the kind of thing you get looked at quickly because it can mean an artery is seriously blocked, and that is an emergency. Everything I have shown you today is meant for the slow, chronic, everyday poor circulation, not for a sudden crisis like that. So there they are. 5 movements that wake up your second heart and get the blood moving back up out of your legs. Let me give you a fast recap. Number 5, ankle pumps to wake the pump up. Number 4, seated leg lifts to move blood up through the thighs. Number 3, supported calf raises for circulation and balance together. Number 2, the single leg hold for that long, steady squeeze and the balance that keeps you upright. And number 1, the standing calf pump hold, the most powerful of them all. The one I would pick without hesitation if you made me choose only one. Keep walking. By the way, walking is wonderful and I never want you to stop doing it, but walking alone leaves a real gap. And these 5 movements are what fill it. They take less than 15 minutes a day. They cost you nothing at all. And you can do every one of them at home in front of the television. Your circulation is one of the very few things about getting older where you actually get a real vote. This is how you cast it. If this helped you today, go ahead and subscribe so the next one finds its way to you. Give this video a like and tell me down in the comments which movement you are starting with first. Take good care of those legs of yours. They have carried you this far, and with just a few honest minutes a day, they will carry you a good while longer. I'm Dr. Natalie Brooks. I will see you soon.